Welcome to our Getting to Know Dual Credit series. In Part 4, we're going to review ACIT registration. Specifically, review how do I know which ACIT students I have and are they actually registered? What's the process for checking their readiness before intake opens? How do I know when the intake is open and actually submit registrations? And how do I know if I did it correctly or if there's any errors? So to begin, I'd like to just have a look at my students, and I'm going to target specifically ACIT in the September 2016 intake. And I see that I have 5 students here. And because I have 5 students, it does not tell me that they have been registered with the ITA. All right, this just means that your local school district has created these students within dual credit and that you're planning to register them. Some of the ways I know whether they're registered or not would be to go into the details of the student and see that there is no ITA individual ID. So that's an indication that they haven't been registered. Notice you cannot hand enter this information because it is provided automatically from the ITA. The other way of knowing whether you've registered or not is using a utility which is previously registered with the ITA. So again, if I target the same specific intake and search, you can see that I have no students available at this time. Just before we begin registering, it's important also to note that each school district has control of their own internal statuses of each program. And in this case, it shows that one student is pending while the others are active. And I can go into the details of the program and you can see exactly how you have control over this. And again, this has nothing to do with registration, it's just your internal statuses. And you do have control to modify and add to this list of core statuses by going to Admin and Managing Student Statuses. Typically, pending means the student has shown some interest in ACIT. You've perhaps had some discussions, but they have not fully committed to it. And if I back up here in this example, I'm likely not going to register this student because of the status. Okay. So, am I ready to register? I noticed on my home page there's no indication that the intake is open, but I'm wondering, am I prepared for that? So, I can go in advance to the Register ACIT Students utility, and even though the intake is closed at this time, I have an indication of readiness. So I can see that 3 students are going to be ready once the intake opens, but 2 of them there's some work to do. Okay? And it just reminds you that there's errors or warnings, and you click the icon for details. So let's begin. Now, I may not register this student, but the errors are useful. So I'm going to click and see that there's 2 problems here. The first is that the email address is a required field. So let's deal with this. I'm going to click directly on this. It takes me to the student record. And indeed, even though an email address is not a required core field, it is required for registration. So I'm going to go ahead and make that change. And if I go back to my warnings, you'll see I'm down to 1. And in this particular case, there's an age check. It says a student cannot be 14 years old as of June 30th, 27 program end date. So this is the logic and business rules around the ITA. Whenever you get a warning around age-related information, that's your cue to, number 1, make sure that the birth date is correct, and then number 2, just have a conversation with the ITA. Obviously, I could go in and I could adjust the birth date if it was done in error, which I'll do just for demonstration. And now you can see that the student is fully prepared and ready for registration. The warning I have here is a little bit different. And recently we've added 3 dimensions to programs, sort of instructor type, location, and program delivery. And if you missed updating that program information, then the validation will stop you here and help you through it. So I could click directly on this link to carpentry joinery, but I wanted you to know that you can also get to this by going under admin to programs. So I'll take the shortcut, and there I am in carpentry joinery. And indeed, there's 3 required fields that are new that I have not yet assigned. So I'm going to go ahead and make these adjustments, and I'll update this. And now you can see I'm in a state of full readiness. In the event that the intake opens, I won't have to work through that validation. I've got that all done in advance. Also, the moment you add a student to an ACIT program, and far before the intake opens, you can also generate their youth apprentice registration forms. And you can do them sort of, this is a, just for one student like this, or I could select all of my students or a group of my students, and I can optionally do the single page or the 4-page version with signatures. And I'll just bring this up so you can see this. So really nice because it fills in the information for you. So your first opportunity meeting with a student, you can come with the fully prepared form and get the apprentice's signature on all the pages. So when the intake does officially open, and I'm just going to fake that, this is what you'll see. So the intake will be officially open. You'll see it on your home page the moment you log in. All right, so I'm going to click on ACIT intake, which really just takes us back to this register ACIT students utility. And now you can see that the intake is open. I don't have any caution marks here. I'm clear with check marks because I've done all my validation. We've opted not to register this student because he never committed to the program, so it's only these 4. There's a bit of an agreement, and of course only the level 4 user accounts within dual credit can register students, so this is exactly like the signature you used to do. And here we go. So I get a bit of an indication of success. I'm going to continue. It takes me to students previously registered and shows that their registration status is now submitted. So it's now in the good hands of the ITA staff. Typically there's a waiting period. It could be overnight, and in most cases you will see this status change to complete within a day or so. I'm going to pause this video for a moment and see if I can manually just change these so you get an idea of what that looks like. Alright, so we're back and it's been a day, and I'm on my home page and noticed I've got a warning here that says one incomplete student ACIT registration has been identified. So I'm going to follow this link, and really this takes me to the previously registered students. Notice I'm filtering just on incomplete, but I'd like to also see the complete. And this gives us a bigger picture. Of the 4 students I submitted, 3 were complete, and they'll have IT registration numbers and all of that stuff, but one of them is not. So if I click on the icon, it's going to tell me, they wanted me to verify the birth date, and I'm not sure if that's a legitimate reason, but I'm going to go in and confirm, yep, the birth date looks correct. All good. So I'm going to go back and reply to this and say verified and correct, and I'm going to resubmit this registration to them just like this. Alright, and now it's been resubmitted, and again within a day or so the registration process will be complete. And that's an overview of the ACIT registration process. Thanks for your time.